Hey friends, welcome back to the Guitar Max channel. So, SBS Guitars, Steve Brown sound. That is, of course, Steve Brown from the band Trickster, in collaboration with GFS Guitar Fetish. They brought out these totally awesome 80s inspired shredder type guitars about a year ago, a year and a half ago now. And these guitars, basically, if you're looking for an awesome 80s style shredder guitar and you're on a budget, these have become, I think, some of just the go-to guitars to get for something like that. But here's the thing. When these guitars first came out, they were like, that's pretty cool, but had a few shortcomings. This is the second generation guitar right here, which had a lot of upgrades from the initial run. However, the boys over at SBS GFS have been hard at work, and they are now on to what I believe is the third generation of these guitars. And these things keep getting better and better. So I've got two new models to show you today, but I should mention that the initial guitars, the original models, they've gone back and upgraded those even more. So I'm going to talk about these, but if you were thinking about getting one of these SBS guitars, has never been a better time to do it, because not only have they expanded the lineup of guitars with some features that I think a lot of people were asking for, but like I said, they went back and they took the original models, and even after the second generation, they were already better. Now they're even better again. And one of the big things is the basic, or I shouldn't say basic, but the first model, like this one here, which is the Showroom 360 version, they've gone and they've added stainless steel jumbo frets. So this one has the jumbo frets, but they're not stainless steel. But if you get a new one, it comes with the stainless steel frets. Now, the big thing with these new guitars is, wha-bam, look at this, hardtail bridges. It's a string through design here. So the first run of guitars had, almost all Floyd Rose style bridges. And there's a couple things with that. One is not everybody wants a Floyd Rose equipped guitar, which I think is nuts, but apparently some people don't want them. And the other thing is that if you're getting one of these guitars as a first guitar, dealing with a Floyd Rose or a double locking bridge can really be a hassle for somebody who's simultaneously learning how to play the guitar, because the setup is more difficult and all that stuff. And if you break a string, the whole thing goes out of tune, all that. So for a first guitar, the initial SBS guitars with the Floyd Rose bridges, it maybe wasn't a great choice. The other thing is that these guitars are all like under $400 or right around there. So the bridges themselves are not the super top quality like original Floyd Rose bridges or anything like that. So some people I like the guitar, but I want a better bridge, so I'm going to have to upgrade it later, and I just don't want to deal with all of that stuff. So what do? Well, we got a whole new lineup of guitars with some other improvements, but the big thing is hardtail bridges. And look at this, stainless steel saddles down here, in addition to the stainless steel jumbo frets on this guitar. Now this one also has a beautiful binding around the body and a flame top. And it still has the roasted maple neck and fretboard. And guys, before, I'm going to cut you off before you get into the comments section. No, these are not stained or painted to look like they're roasted. These are actually roasted maple necks. I dealt with all of that myth in a previous video, but please just listen to me. These are not fake roasted maple necks. Now, that's one of the new guitars. Here's another new guitar. Look at this. They went ahead and did a Tele body, but in this radical 80s color. And they've got purple, they've got, I think, a red, yellow, all kinds of awesome bright colors that you can see from the back of the arena, right? And look at this one. It's got a slanted humbucker in the bridge and then a single coil in the neck. And you've got coil splitting for the bridge pickup. And you've got the stainless steel saddles on this one as well. It's got the carved neck joint here. That same awesome roasted neck. The other thing is that they have redesigned the headstock on these guitars just slightly. I'll show you the difference here. Here's the original one right here. Okay, you see that? And here is the new one. It's got a little bit of almost like a hook to it. I mean, I didn't mind the original one. I think this one is a little more aggressive. And get a load of this. You might think I'm crazy, but if you wanted to, look at that. You can actually hang the guitar from the headstock now because it's got that little hook in it. To be totally honest, this headstock, again, I like it. There's nothing wrong with it, but maybe it's a little bit too generic or something. This one's got a little more character to it. So of course that doesn't really affect the performance of the guitar at all, but just something different on these third generation guitars. But now look, I know what you're gonna ask. You're gonna say, Max, well, they've made all these improvements to the guitar, you know, the upgraded saddles and the bigger frets, stainless steel frets, all this stuff. Well, they must have increased the price of these guitars. But no, you would be incorrect. These guitars are still under $400. This one right here, $309 for this guitar. Look at this thing. It's probably the most radical looking $309 guitar you can get. Now, with GFS, with the Guitar Fetish stuff, you will be paying a shipping fee on top of that, and of course sales tax and everything. So it's not like $309 to your front door, but that's the basic price of the guitar, and their shipping charges have come down considerably from like a few years ago and stuff when they were higher. So still, you know, under $400 for this guitar, no problem. Okay, now there's a few other important things, and then we'll get into some playing and sound samples and everything. But one thing about all of these guitars, all of the SBS guitars, they use the quick plug pickups. Now this is this system that GFS has where the pickups are not hardwired in, but they use these little tiny audio cables, and that enables you to swap out the pickups incredibly easily and without doing any soldering or anything like that. And the other thing is they don't just have like the same generic pickups in all of these guitars. Depending on the model you get different pickups in the guitar. And that's the thing, if you don't like the sound of the pickups, if you want to change them, or maybe you want to go to like a dual rail, single coil sized humbucker or something like that, you can install those literally just by unscrewing the pickup, unplugging it, and plugging in a new one, and then you're done. So I've done videos about the quick plug stuff in the past, but it's just something to keep in mind. All of these guitars have that feature, which is super cool. And you're getting all this stuff, guys, under $400. I mean, this is, how many times do I have to say this? We are in the golden age of guitar right now. I cannot walk through my apartment without tripping over an awesome, affordable guitar. All you need to shred these days is a guitar like this, and then of course the Yngwie Malmsteen Force multivitamin, which I think I'm going to take right now. Look for a review of these coming soon. I'm testing them out. Number one, they're delicious, and with just 2 gummies, you have 50% of your daily folate intake. Awesome. Okay, so let's plug in this guitar. Actually, we'll plug in both guitars. We'll go through some sound samples. I'm going to use my Boss IR200 amp and cab simulator for the demo. And then I'm going to talk a little bit more about these hardtail versions and why, for some reasons, I actually like these more than the Floyd Rose equipped versions, even though I'm a huge Floyd Rose fan myself. That's going to be after the demo. Of course, guys, real quick, if you enjoy videos like this, checking out awesome new affordable guitars, and also staying up on all the latest news in the guitar universe, and you have not already subscribed, please consider subscribing right now. Okay, let's do it. Let's plug these in and listen to how they sound. Okay guys, so let's talk a little bit more about these guitars. Now, the string through body versions of these guitars I think are great in a couple of ways, and they are superior in a couple of situations to the Floyd Rose versions of these guitars. So number one, like I mentioned earlier, if you're a beginner guitarist, if you are going to get one of these guitars as your first guitar or a first guitar for somebody, I think don't get a Floyd Rose equipped guitar as a first guitar. I always say that. And again, the reason is dealing with string changes, tuning the guitar, if you break a string, all that stuff, it's a big hassle on a Floyd Rose guitar. And when somebody is just starting out and they're just trying to learn the fretboard and learn a few cool licks and songs and things like that, dealing with the Floyd Rose quirks, right, it's kind of discouraging overall to your progress on the guitar. So I always recommend like a hardtail, either a string through or a wraparound bridge or something like that, because they're much easier to tune, just easier to deal with. You don't have maintenance on the Floyd Rose, that kind of stuff. Now the other thing is if you are experimenting with different tunings, and I do this a lot, and fortunately I have so many guitars that I'm going to have them set up in different tunings, so I just grab one for, standard tuning, or I grab a different guitar for half step down, or whole step down, D standard, which is actually my favorite tuning. Or maybe I want to, play some like bad industrial music or something, some like C or something. Anyway, if you're dealing with different tunings, having a guitar like this, where you can easily change the tuning or easily change the string gauge without screwing around with a bunch of springs in the back and that kind of stuff, this is much, much easier for all that kind of stuff. So if you are A, new to guitar, or B, changing your tuning a lot or changing the string gauges, I think this is definitely the way to go. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is the frets on these guitars. When they went from the little tiny frets that they started with to the jumbo frets, that was a huge step up. That was like, I don't know, going from 50% to like 85%, and now we're at 100% with the stainless steel fret. But something to keep in mind is that these are not these new fancy rounded ball end frets that we've seen on a lot of import guitars. The fret ends are finished just kind of standard fret ends here. And one thing is that if this was not a roasted maple neck, I would actually be a little bit concerned about that, because on a traditional maple neck, the wood still has some moisture in it, and so the wood can kind of change shape a little bit. It can shrink a little bit, and then you get the fret ends sticking out because the wood's gotten smaller, but the metal stays the same size. That can be a problem. And on stainless steel frets, it's a little bit harder to deal with that because the material is so much harder. However, because these are roasted maple necks, the wood has already been dried out. The moisture has already been removed from the wood. That's one of the big pluses of the roasted maple necks, is they are more stable. The wood is more stable. And for that reason, I don't expect you to have fret problems on these guitars, 6 months down the road or something, or when the seasons change and the wood could have changed a little bit. Now, for whatever reason, when I'm playing these, I find myself enjoying this one a little bit more than the Tele body version. I think the action is actually a little bit better on this one. I have not made any setup adjustments to these guitars. I just took them out of the box and I tuned them and started playing them. And the action is, it's slightly lower on this one, but with a little bit of, truss rod massaging and so forth, I mean, you could certainly get the action lower on these. I believe they both have 16-inch radius fretboards. I'll have the links to the all the exact details and everything down in the video description below. But very, very flat fretboards, and of course the necks both are satin finished, very, very smooth. Look at that beautiful flame on the necks there. $309 for this one, $349 for this one, and most of the guitars are in that price range. And you can still get the relic body ones if you want one of those. That was the first one they came out with. I'll have links to all this stuff down in the video description below. So guys, the big takeaway here, the big thing is that Guitar Fetish and SBS, they are listening to the customers. They are giving us what we want, right? I mean, they're making the upgrades that people are asking for, and they've been able to do it while keeping the overall price of the guitar down, which is really, really amazing. I mean, I said it at the beginning of the video, but these guitars started out as like, oh, that's a cool kind of cheap 80s inspired guitar. But when you get it, you'll have to do this and that to it to make it better, but still pretty cool for the price. It's gone from that to being just an insanely wicked shred guitar for under $400. And I think whatever complaints people might have had on the first generation of these guitars, they've done such a good job of upgrading key components and really speccing these out while keeping the price down that I don't really think there's much for people to complain about anymore. Okay guys, that is pretty much it for this video. Big upgrades on these guitars, and big shout out to Mr. Steve Brown for giving the world such awesome guitars like these. I think more guitars, the more guitars and the more choices we have, the better. And yeah, these ones are some truly awesome choices that I'm really happy that we have. Okay guys, thanks a ton for watching. I'm gonna have links to everything I was talking about down in the video description below. And would you like to do what I do? Would you like to play guitar on the internet for a living? Well, if that sounds fun to you, then check out my online course that teaches you how to do exactly that. I've got a bunch of different chapters on video editing, promotion, how to come up with interesting ideas, talking on camera. There's even a really good, really long interview with Dovidas, who's a super popular YouTuber on there. He kind of gives a bunch of his secrets and everything on there. Check that out. There's a link for that down in the video description below. Okay guys, if you enjoyed the video, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll talk to you very soon.